So I did this video yesterday. I recorded a concussion in process. It was a pretty small one. I wanted to do a small one on purpose. Yesterday I had stayed up real late working on the website, the i4i.com website, publishing some stuff, and so I really hadn't gotten a whole lot of sleep. I still had energy though. I still had energy for about 4 or 5 hours, so the best I could do yesterday was basically go to work, sell a car, and then come home. Work for about 4 hours and come home with a car sale. At 12:30, having to be to work at 1 o'clock, I went into my garage and I recorded this video. I spent about 5 minutes generating the emotion needed to create a concussion. I had the energy. I knew what I wanted. I wanted to sell a car before 5 o'clock and go home. So I generated the emotion. I had the focus, one car before 5 o'clock, and then I let it go. I hit that heavy bag with everything I had for just a few seconds, and I recorded it. What was really cool, the way that it worked. Car sales is about numbers. You talk to 10 customers, you sell a car or two. That's what it's all about. It means usually on a normal day, if you want to sell a car that day, you need to see 10 people to sell a car that day. And it's just a numbers game. 9 people are going to say no or not today, and the one person's going to say today. What was cool about this demonstration was the ability to change the odds in your favor. And if you saw Down the Rabbit Hole, that video that I posted at the website, and it's also in my playlist over here. You can watch the entire Down the Rabbit Hole movie here on YouTube. What's cool about the Down the Rabbit Hole movie is they record some findings with random number generators or random event generators. And what they found, a tuned individual can actually influence the odds on a random number generator. Random number generator is basically how all computer games work, where you've got characters that move in random directions, or spaceships that shoot at you at random times, or random math on a role-playing game or whatever. A random number generator is basically a coin tosser. The computer tosses a 1 or a 0, heads or tails, heads or tails. What they found is that in-tune individuals can basically influence the outcomes of a random number generator. So if you have a true random number generator, it should do a 1 50% of the time and a 0 50% of the time. So you got a 50-50 chance. And you flip the coin 1,000 times, and you basically get 500 heads and 500 tails, or 500 ones and 500 zeros. Well, what they found is that people that are in tune can actually focus on, I want it to show up 1, 1, 1, or I want it to be heads, heads, heads. And basically, instead of getting a 500 heads, 500 tails outcome, you end up with 600 heads and 400 tails. That kind of anomaly. They found anomalies when you add human thought to it. So this stuff is pretty neat stuff. Down the Rabbit Hole is done by quantum physicists. Quantum physicists pursuing this kind of knowledge is really interesting. It's really something unique to the last 20 years of the 20th century, and the first 10 years of this century is the fascination between quantum mechanics and religion, if you will, or the melding of the two. I believe this technology that I'm working on is basically something that we may not be able to observe it. I filmed this video. Certainly you can't see any shock waves coming out of my eyeballs or whatever. I'm generating energy, and just like a television signal, you can't see a television signal in the air, but it's there because you can see results. When you turn on your TV, you get a signal, or a radio signal, or whatever. When I use my cell phone, I can't see the signal between my cell phone and the cell phone tower. I can't see it, but I know it's there. I have evidence that it's there because I can talk to someone on the other end. 12:30, I generated the intention to the universe that I was going to sell a car between 1 and 5. The odds of generating a car and selling a car with an internet shift between 1 and 5 are very remote. Very remote. Because most of the people making phone calls, some of them are serious, some are not. So you got that factor. Most of the people making phone calls, a lot of them are service-related issues. So a lot of times you pick up the phone and, it isn't even someone looking to buy a car. A lot of times people don't have the credit to buy a car, so they have a desire to buy a car, but they can't. Or maybe they're looking to buy a car next week, so they make a call today to test the waters, that kind of stuff. Well, that's all fine and good in a numbers game type thing, Odds are that if I wanted to sell a car again between 1 and 5 o'clock, I'd have to see 10 customers, which basically was impossible because, well, first of all, I wasn't even seeing customers. I was taking phone calls. See, so it's basically about 10% of the leads that walk into the store we close. And so a phone call lead to close that same day is very rare. What happened here was I generated the concussion. The first phone call I took that day were these people shopping for a car, and they walked out of here with that car within a couple hours. To me, it's pretty miraculous that I called it and it happened. So the event was a very rare event normally, and the fact that I called it ahead of time is also a rare event. Putting those two together, and this is all time and date stamped on my iPhone here. One of the cool things about the iPhone, it records the video, and it records the place, and it records the time. And to my knowledge, you can't alter that stuff. So this is a historical fact. A historical fact on May 5th, I generated the concussion. Historical fact, within an hour of generating that concussion, a customer decided to buy a car from me, and within 2 hours that deal was completed. And I filmed all this on the iPhone. Someday, with new technology, there may be some way to pick up what actually happened there, but we can't pick it up with our instruments. All I know is that it happened. In other words, you can pick up a television signal today. Maybe someday you'll be able to pick up whatever type of waves are being generated by the human mind. Maybe there's another frequency that we're not aware of that hits another dimension or whatever. I have no idea how it works. I really have limited idea how this cell phone works, but I use it nonetheless. And so sometimes you just got to flip the switch and get the light. Focus, energy, and the emotion are the switch to get this light. If you want to generate a concussion, you don't have to understand how it works. You don't have to understand the quantum mechanics behind it. You don't have to understand what it actually is going on. Am I sending a message out to her directly, or am I changing the universe, or is it just my intent, or is it just me? Am I just changing myself, my DNA, so much by that focus that I'm closing anybody that walks in the front door? I don't think so. These people were ready to buy a car and they happened to call me. The odds of them calling me as opposed to another sales consultant or whatever. Again, there's other people in that office. They didn't sell a car between 1 and 5. I did. In fact, I was one of the only car deals that day. It's exciting stuff, and I know it to be true, and I'm glad I was able to capture it on film for you. And there'll be other films in the future, but this is the first time that I've personally ever captured a concussion on film. I'm glad to give that to you today. Take care, and see you next time.